program director for the campus project. With me, I have Angie Andreessen, the business analyst, and we'll be conducting this answer hour. As usual, as all of our answer hours, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. We will, answer them as they come up. And then, just so everybody is aware, this is a recorded session. This answer hour, because it has been shortened, I'll get through the PowerPoint and make sure we get to those questions quick. But we're going to follow the same agenda that we typically follow on this, where we talk about the updates, we talk about the known issues, and then we go through the questions. All right, perfect. So, yeah, we had a really large release, especially for the EDI side of things on the 28th. That release took us about 5 weeks to complete. We did full requirements. We talked with a number of external stakeholders, and then built it and tested it, and that release was rolled out. And I've seen that we've had a lot of lot of good feedback from the EDI release. Watching the transactions go through, it seems like we have cleared up a lot of those blockers. We know there's still a few little things out there where we have data clashes on our end that's causing some erroneous rejections, and that's something we're going to focus on next. But that's the the EDI release went well. The one thing is that other than the EDI release, there one of the pieces of that was associating adjusters to claims that was in the release, so that when your EDI transaction comes in, that the adjuster will get associated, so you don't have to do it automatic, or you don't have to go in there and manually do it anymore. So as long as the adjuster's email is a campus user, they would be associated. Angie, do you have any other things on the release that we want to talk about?
Yeah, so that was a really good point with the adjusters. One thing to keep in mind with that will update on whatever EDI transaction you send next, so it wouldn't be retroactive. And those adjusters just need to be part of the group that's listed as the claim administrator on those files. So they need to be a campus user, and that email needs to be within your group in order for them to get access. And then another thing, just to kind of throw in with that, if an adjuster is replaced on an EDI transaction, it will just go ahead and remove the previous adjuster and update it with the new adjuster email address. I did go ahead and drop the link to the EDI release details in the chat, and then I also included our 128 release notes. That mostly covers the same content, but there are a few other things as well. So just so you all are aware, that is in the chat if you'd like to view those. And I do see, I had a question just asking if the content for the 11:30 call scheduled after this is the same as what we're running through now. It is not. That is specifically for group administrators. So the content will be different if you attend the 11:30 group management answer hour. I think we can probably move into known
thanks,
issues.
Angie. So some of the known issues we have, we continue to find that we have some legacy data issues where we had a number of TPAs that were created multiple times, and so TPAs are getting linked to transactions, but they're not able to access them. If that is happening, please contact the EDI team with the transaction that it's happening on and your filing, and we will they will work to get those cleaned up, because that is something that we have to do manually, and we have to go through there and clean. If you have associated claims to both entities, we got to clean those up and move them over to one so that it shows up correctly in your group. Company name rather than adjuster name, is listed on some of the generated documents. It's a known issue, and it's something we're going to work to resolve. Inactive claims showing is open. That's something, again, we've seen, sometimes what DLI considers open and what the insurance carriers consider open are two different things, but it does, show up in your queue as an open file, and something, we're looking at. Inability to upload other filings on closed files. This is something that's affecting everybody, not just the insurance community, that, attorneys and everybody. Once we close a file, the theory behind it is once a file is closed, that the file needs to be reopened to start attaching other documents, because obviously you don't want something being filed into, without us seeing it, or any rules on that. But we are seeing that is causing some issues for a number of folks, and so we're looking at options of what to do on that to open those up. Bulk edit issues with claims access. This is to do with when you're trying to assign, update everybody in bulk to get everybody access to claims. It still is, it's working for the most part, but there are some issues where we're seeing specific scenarios where it's not working, and so Angie's working on that. And then the XML document batch batch issues. Angie, do you know a little bit about what the XML document batch issue is?
Yeah, so what we're seeing in some situations, if you are somebody who receives the documents that are generated from EDI transactions back from your vendor, or if you're a direct connect trading partner and you receive those via a zip file, we are having some issues with those zip files. So what I would recommend in that instance is, if you haven't already, just go ahead and send an email to the EDI team, the help desk, so that way we can track the issues with that. We do have that slated to go into our release tomorrow evening. And just so y'all are aware, it is still generating those documents. So you can still always go into campus and grab them if it's something that you need to get now. Those should be accessible as long as you have claim access. But just so y'all are aware, if that is something that you typically work with your vendor to do, you just wouldn't be able to see that information, or you wouldn't be seeing those documents back right now due to that issue. And it looks like I've got a number of questions in the chat, so we can start running through those. So the first one, if we filed the wrong EDI transaction in error and we're trying to file the correct one, but they reject because the wrong ones were filed, what's the best way to let you know so we can get the corrected ones accepted? I mentioned that the best thing to do would be to email the EDI team with that information, just so we can figure out exactly what to do. In those instances, it may be that we need to submit an SU or a sync up just to get you guys back into sequence. So that's what I would recommend. We do have to manually allow the SU on those files, so we'll kind of work with you on those situations to figure out exactly what's occurring. If we do not have a JCN on a takeover claim, is it still necessary to send an AQ to reject so we can send an AU? And what is the procedure for getting the AQ and the AU files on claims that were acquired prior to 11/2 as release 3 files? So in that instance, if you don't have a JCN, I would recommend reaching out to the EDI team as well. We can usually grab those JCNs from the database if they already exist, just depending on some of the information, other information that you all may be able to provide, so we can match them up. If you send an AU or an AQ and then an AU, the difficulty with that is if you're sending, it has the potential to create duplicate files. So if it's a situation where you just don't have the JCN or you're not sure if there's a JCN, you can reach out to us. We can usually research that as well. With the AQs and the AUs, I believe that if those are files that you acquired prior to 11/1 or after, it's something that if there's a UR, you should be able to just do an AQ. I'll have to research for sure. I know this is a pretty discussed topic when we were writing all of our requirements surrounding EDI, and I know that our FAQs have something specifically that addresses that. I'll go ahead and I'll get that information and put it in the chat, but I don't know it right off the top of my head, so I'll put that in the chat so y'all can take a look at that if it's something that may impact your organization. I didn't see any Freud-Shroy UR sequencing issues in the 128 release note. Is this a common issue? So we would need to know more specifically what you're seeing with Freud and Shroy sequencing. We did put some Freud and Shroy sequencing in our EDI release, so it may not be listed in those general release notes, but it would be on that EDI release page, anything that we did put into the release for sequencing.
Yeah, and Angie, I know that, Angie, this is Fred. I know sometimes too, it will throw a sequencing error on a UR if there's a data clash, because it shows under a match data that we don't have a previously reported claim. So it looks like the UR is coming out of sequence, and that's happening, and that's where you would contact the EDI team, because most of the time it has something to do with the either the employee's information is not matching to the JCN that we have, and we have to update those, or there's some other issues with like claim admin claim number and things like that. So that's why I would recommend contacting the EDI team for those, get resolution on those.
Great, thank you, Brad. Can we only serve the documents created in Campus, such as a NOID 3, or is there a way to serve the EDI generated forms such as an NOPLD or NOID? Also, why is no date populated on the NOID? So those would not be able to be served via Campus. The only one that is served via Campus is that NOID 3. The others, since they're created with an EDI process, are not served through Campus. And the reason that we don't have a date populated on that NOID transaction is because we would want you all to actually capture the date that you're serving that on the employee. Now, it's okay if you don't put that directly on the form, but definitely just keep a record of it in your system so that if you are ever needed to provide that information to DLI, you can do so. And that's why there's no date populated on the NOID for service. Next question. If a claim is closed in Campus and we do need to file something, say MMI, how do we get it opened? Do we email the help desk and request that it be opened? That's what I would recommend. We can usually reopen those for you. As soon as they're reopened, you should be able to see that other filing option. DLI has contacted me to ask for claim information, as documents received in Campus do not have this info. Is this part of the known issue? No, we should be able to get most of the claim information, especially if you're sending it via EDI. They may just be asking for some additional information so that they can identify if you're having like an error. But Amy, if you could possibly let us know who has contacted you requesting that information, that might give us a little bit more of an idea as to why they may be asking for it. I did go ahead and I put a link in the chat information regarding URs and AQs. So it's just on our FAQ page, item number 7. It specifically gives the guidelines for a situation where you may need to submit an AQ rather than a UR. I'm having an issue with the theme not pulling through on subsequent filings on one particular claim. I have to add the employer and insurer theme on all additional filings. Diane, I think you're talking about with e-forms. So I know that's something that we've seen sometimes, but if you can send the particular file where that's occurring, that would be helpful just so we can see, maybe research why that's not sticking. And Amy, you mentioned that it was Deb and ADR. So she may just be trying to get that information so that she can do some additional research. That is information that's usually available on campus, but it may just be something that she's reaching out to ask for so that she can work through any ADR filings. I don't see any other questions right now. Brad, do you have anything additional to add? I'll kind of monitor the.
I don't. I think you covered everything there. It's just, you know, the release really did free up a lot of things, and we saw a lot of what was previously being rejected for some of these issues that Angie put in the chat was freed up, and we've had a lot of people that have already TA'd their transactions. So if you're still experiencing things, please contact the help desk. Like I said, we need to get those documented, and we need to figure out a plan forward on how to get those corrected, because a lot of it is around legacy data clashing with your data you have in your system, and that's causing the majority of the issues. So please contact the EDI team, and they'll be able to assist with that.
Thanks, Brad. And I know I've been asking this pretty frequently, but one thing that we were just kind of trying to gauge on our end too is just the need for ongoing answer hours like this. Currently, we've opted to put these specific answer hours to every other week for 30 minutes, and that seems to kind of be hitting the spot. So any feedback that you guys have regarding cadence or timing of these, that would be helpful to put in the chat. And I do see, what information do you need in order to find the missing JCNs on takeover claims? If you have the WID information and so if you have the WID, if you have the employee's last name and the date of injury, that's usually a pretty good place for us to start. Let's see here. I got a temporary fee on a very old claim where the employer is out of business, but then it rejected, indicating that they could not find a claim in their system. It rejected due to JCN and maintenance error, how to resolve. So in that instance, you either didn't have a JCN or either didn't have a JCN or your JCN was invalid. You can reach out to the EDI team and we can grab that JCN for you or verify it. The state is showing our street address rather than our PO box. Where is that pulled from, or how do we update it? For the forms, that would actually be pulled from the transactions that you all are submitting. So that would just be something that you all would need to make sure is being submitted correctly on your end within the transaction. We are unable to submit a filing to initiate a dispute on any work comp claim without DLI manually adding each claims adjuster to each file. Is there another way to submit a filing? So you should be able to add people to filings as well if you follow the process for granting access. I believe that if an adjuster is allocated access to a file, it should allow them to file a dispute as well. I guess I'm a little bit confused with the submit a filing question, because the disputes should actually be able to be filed without the submit a filing button. That would be done in a different process. Is the WID number the same as the employee security ID? Correct. That is the number that's generated by DLI and sent back in the acknowledgements. So it would be the employee security ID. All right. Can you say what is being worked on for the next release? Brad, I'm gonna have you go ahead and answer that and kind of explain how we work with releases.
Yeah, so the next release, what we're going to focus on is, well, we have a couple things. We have the stakeholder survey that went out to help us prioritize some of the external functionality that's being requested. And then we have some internal functionality that's being requested to help get stakeholders through the process faster. The way this gets done is there's a group of managers over the units that prioritize the work, and then we start to slot it for releases. We're looking to do, for new functionality, monthly releases. For bug fixes, we're still looking to do every week or every other week, depending on the number and the amount of testing that they take. So it really depends on exactly what we're trying to accomplish. We want to get any type of defects, especially ones that are blocking, turned around within a week. If it's new functionality that's needed, that has to get prioritized, and that gets slotted into a monthly release. So right now, we don't have our slotting for the February monthly release. We have ideas, but we kind of want to make sure that we're listening to the stakeholder feedback and getting in anything that we can in from that in there. If not, it'd be in the following month.
Great, thanks for that explanation, Brad. There's one more question here. So when submitting a Troy UR on a takeover claim with indemnity paid since 2005 and several different benefit type codes, the UR doesn't require the cumulative weeks and days for each benefit type, but any subsequent filing usually causes those fields to be required. This is hard to determine accurately on very old claims. So you would need to have that information, the cumulative weeks and days. You should be including that, especially if you're submitting like sub-annual claims or something like that, or sub-annual filings. So yeah, we understand that may be a little difficult to determine, but that is just part of the EDI standards. And I'm not sure if Sarah, if you're submitting those via EDI or VAE form, but typically what we're going to look for is, yes, those cumulative weeks. So I think that was more a comment than a question. All right. So I am not seeing any other questions in the chat right now. With that, I think we'll end a few minutes early today. And I know some of you will attend the 11:30 group admin call. And otherwise, we will plan to schedule another one of these hours in a few weeks. Thank you all so much for your participation. We will talk to you soon.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate it.